how you've come from where you've come from into the family, becoming part of the business, and then getting to this place.
Sure. I think my childhood and my background is really interesting because I grew up kind of in the world where you're a doctor or a nurse or a lawyer or a chef. You know, there's like 6 options, and then that's it. And then I met the Hunsater family, my husband Tyler and Jared, and they just are dreamers and creative. I mean, they're so creative, and it was just really a breath of fresh air and shocking, and I learned a lot about myself, even just kind of hearing them talk about ideas and watching this come to life and being a part of making it come to life. Just how much potential one idea can have. And so I think, yeah, it was just crazy, the difference from what I lived my entire life thinking and knowing was true about the adult and business world to just living in the adult and business world and actually having fun, you know, like enjoying what we're doing and being proud of what we're doing and just knowing that the options are kind of endless with what you can do. Yeah, it was just a big difference from what I always knew.
And I think and speak to Kelsey before I talk about my own experience, watching her come into the family with a medical background and the perspective that brings and what that's even done to this business and how it has informed decisions we've made and how we've set things up is really interesting because I think normally that perspective probably would not have been invited into the conversation, but it's really interesting to trace people's backgrounds and experience and then how that positively affects what you're doing, even if it's very different. For me, I grew up, my family was a little bit more on the creative side and have different backgrounds, and some of which is also marketing and things. So I grew up a little bit more with the creative side of the world, but not with business ownership at all. So for me, seeing what it's like to be the person where the buck stops for a business and what the decision making that comes with that looks like, and maybe you're not just the fun part, you know, it's like you can wear the creative hat, but you're also wearing the boss hat, and the business hat has been very new to me. I think what struck me stepping into this specific, you know, agritourism setting is how much of you can do everything right as a business owner, and you can still have hardships from things that are totally outside of your control. And that was very new to me because any environment I had been in prior, you really could control most of what you were working with. And so making decisions in this business, I think some of our creativity has resulted from having to pivot because we lost part of our crop, or having to pivot because something has changed that's totally out of our control. And so we've had moments where creativity is just dreamed up for fun, and there's moments when creativity is absolutely necessary to survive. And so that's been a new experience.
It's almost
for
kind
me.
of like, not forced, but you know, something happens, like she mentioned, we lost our entire crop on our 2nd year of ever having our business open. So that was a really hard hit. And there was a few days where we just kind of were like, shoot, you know, like, now what? And then we kind of like, we're like, okay, let's figure this out, let's pivot. And we pivoted into our U-cut flower field. So we have 2 acres of flowers here that we invite people in to come and enjoy and then cut and bring home a bouquet themselves. And it was wildly successful. And now we implement it in our U-pick experience every single year, regardless of how full our crop is of apples or peaches or whatever it may be.
And that's a beautiful example of something we may never have done.
Exactly.
If the idea may have never happened, if that hardship wouldn't have hit first.
Exactly. And I think the more that things like that happen, the more confident that we get, even with our decision making, and even in those hard moments, you know, when weather doesn't cooperate or something falls through that we were hoping for. The more that we pivot and things work out and we believe in ourselves, the less hard those hard times are.
Sure. And you see yourself survive a hard time.
Right.
And you're like, we can do this again if we need to.